Hey everyone, this is John from US Dash Camera. Today I got a review on the new Joovuu X dash camera. Now this one's a little unique because it's more like the Mobius dash camera, so it doesn't look like a typical dash camera unless you're familiar with the Mobius. People like to call them matchbox style cameras, and it's pretty cool because it's pretty full featured for such a small camera. So this was sent to me for review by Pure28. As usual, I will provide a Amazon link down below where you can purchase this, or through their direct store at shop.pure28.com. But let's go ahead and take a look inside. So it does have a quick start guide. If you want the full manual, you can actually get it from the website, and I will provide a link down below for that also. But this tells you the basic functions such as turning the Wi-Fi on or off, switching modes, formatting the memory card, or using the app. Now, since this does have Wi-Fi, they do actually have their own iOS or Android app, and that's one of those unique features I was talking about that the Mobius doesn't have. So here's the actual camera. It is really small, but it is actually a little bigger than the Mobius. I'll show that later, but for how much is packed into this camera, that's not surprising. The Mobius is a really nice under $100 camera, but it's very basic. This one is really packed full of features. On the top we have that shutter or record button, a mode button, some LEDs, got the micro SD card slot and the power button on the side. On the back we got a micro HDMI. There's the 1/4 inch tripod mount, which is similar to the Mobius except this is actually built into it. Let's take a look at what else comes with it. So we got a power cable that actually has a built-in GPS. So the GPS isn't built into the camera, but it does come included on the power cable. The power cable also has a USB port if you slide this open. Noticed a few cameras actually come with this similar cable, but this is the only one I've gotten that has the GPS built in. So that's pretty cool. Here's the included mount. So it has a 1/4 inch tripod mount with a 3M adhesive. So this is pretty small. I really like that. This is just a mount you can use for mounting it to something like a baseball cap or possibly even a car visor if your visor is thin enough. That screw is actually used to connect to that clip. Just got a data cable that uses mini USB, and we got some drivers and some software on here. You don't really need it, and so many people don't even have disk drives anymore anyways. So let's take a look at this clip. Pretty much can get this in with just your finger. I couldn't really tighten it as tight as I wanted, even with the coin. I wasn't a big fan of this little clip actually. I almost prefer the Mobius mount, how it slides over the whole camera. But at the same time, including the tripod mount built into the camera is a good idea, I think. That way you don't actually have to worry about a separate mount. So let's take a look at the app. I'm going to plug this in with the mini USB. So it does start up, and by default it'll start recording in mode 1. You can set 2 different modes, and in each mode you can actually set different resolutions or other settings. Now to get to the Wi-Fi, you have to stop the recording and then you hold the mode button for about 5 seconds, and then the other LED will turn on, and that's a blue LED. I accidentally held down the wrong button at first, but here we'll get the blue light. So now the Wi-Fi is on, and we can connect with the app. So we'll go ahead and connect to the Wi-Fi, which will show up as Joovuu X. Sometimes it takes a few seconds for it to actually show up. So there's Joovuu X, and the default password is 12345678890. So now we can actually access the app, and then with the app we can connect to the camera. Once you connect to the camera, there's a lot of different features you can use. So let's go ahead and look at what's on the main menu. Here you can see I just took a photo manually, and I can also start recording manually with this app. But let's go ahead and take a look at the general settings on the top left. So here you can see we got date and time, date format, beep noises on or off, recording LEDs on or off, default camera mode, power on auto record, standby time, power off disconnect, motion detection. Motion turn off is how long it will record if it starts recording from the motion detection. TV out in North America, you want NTSC. We've got the G sensor, your car plate stamp, Wi-Fi password, a speed stamp, connection log, and the timed mode, which is pretty interesting. With timed mode, you can actually set what time the camera will switch to mode 2, so you can actually have mode 2 as a quote nighttime mode. So it's recommended, or most people's personal preference, is to use the 1080p 60 during the day, because that provides really good clear images, especially when you need to pause it and try to maybe make out a license plate. But at night you really want that high dynamic range in dark areas. So in the mode setting we have mode 1, mode 2, or the photo mode. Now mode 1 I have, which is the default 1080p 60 frames per second, and that's pretty much everyone's personal preference, it seems like, at least for daytime. One interesting feature that this has is auto rotation, so if you flip it over, it'll actually reorient the video properly. Another really interesting feature is the field of view. Now, the lens itself is 155 degree field of view, but you can set it as low as 60. Now the lower the field of view, the closer the image is going to appear, which makes license plates easier to read. But it comes down to personal preference, because if you're using a lower field of view, you're still getting a much narrower viewpoint, so it's going to come down to personal preference. Like most Wi-Fi apps on dash cameras, this does have a live feed or live view feature, but this is more just for setting the camera up. As you can see, there is a delay there, so you're not going to really be able to use this as some sort of rear reversing cam or anything like that. There's too much of a delay for me personally. It is convenient to set up the camera though and make sure you get a good viewpoint. Of course, we got the gallery, so you can watch your videos from your phone without even taking the memory card out or taking the camera down. That's one of my favorite reasons to have a Wi-Fi app. But of course, all of these awesome, great features come at a price. It retails for about $190, and here we got the Mobius and one of my previous in-off cameras. That's actually the remote lens version, but it's still the same size as the other in-off cameras. So here you can see the Joovuu is actually significantly bigger, but it's still really small, so that's all that really matters. And like I was mentioning earlier, this is the sleeve that comes with the Mobius, so there you can see the Joovuu doesn't require any type of sleeve to mount it to the tripod mount. The reason I like the Mobius sleeve though is I connected a magnet to mine, so I thought that was convenient. So now let's talk about the video formats. There's a lot of different options. There's 1080p 30, there's 1080p 30 with high dynamic range, 1080p 60, a ultra wide 1080p, so It's going to have black bars on the top and bottom on a 16:9 TV. Now this is the HDR version, or high dynamic range version, and there's an issue, as you can see right there. While you come out of a dark area, it seems like the image goes into a negative image. So that is something the company is aware of. They are working on fixing it, so possibly by the time you actually watch this video, it could be fixed. It's definitely something I wanted to mention though, because this is how it's been since I've been testing it. But like I said, with the timed mode, the HDR version is actually more suited for nighttime. And my default setting, like I said, for daytime is the 1080p 60. During the daytime, you don't really got to worry about really dark images or anything. What you do really want to focus on though is getting a very clear picture, especially at high speeds. So if you're on the freeway, you're going to get a clearer picture when you take a freeze frame of, say a license plate during the day. So now this is actually the 1080p 60 mode, and it doesn't have that issue that the HDR mode had, but this video review is only going to be 30 frames a second, so check down in the description. I'm going to provide links to where I uploaded the videos separately on YouTube that will actually have the correct aspect ratio and frame rate, but those also aren't going to have the true quality of the footage because it's going to be condensed or compressed from YouTube. So check down in the description for raw footage that I have uploaded on Mega. Now this last clip here, or last day clip here, is actually the 21:9 mode, which I mentioned is 1080p but ultra wide. So like I said, you get the black bars up on the top and bottom. It sounds like something that would make a lot of sense, that you're using more of the image processing in a shorter but wider view, but I think I personally prefer just the normal 1080p with 60 frames per second. I don't really feel like the ultra wide and shorter picture gives as much benefit as having 60 frames a second, and you can only get 30 frames per second with this 21:9 mode. Now this is some night footage in the 1080p 60 mode, and as I said, I will provide links to these for the raw footage, but overall I would say the night footage definitely is good. It didn't wow me, like it didn't knock my socks off or anything, but it's definitely better than the Mobius. I felt like the Mobius, while it has really good day footage for such a cheap camera, it had pretty poor night footage. So just for comparison, this next clip right now is actually the Mobius, and I hope through YouTube you can actually see what I'm talking about, but it is quite a bit grainier. When I pause the footage, like say I'm trying to look at a car while it's passing me, when I pause it, it seems a lot more blurry too. So like I said, the Mobius, while it's really awesome and really cheap, the Joovuu does have significantly better footage at night, and it also has modes beyond just 1080p 30 like the Mobius. The Mobius only has 1080p 30, while this has the 1080p 30 with high dynamic range, the 1080p 60, the 1296p mode, and also the ultra wide 1080p mode. On top of that, of course, we have the GPS, the Wi-Fi with the iOS and Android apps, the custom field of view, the timed mode, so you can set, for example, the 1080p 60 mode during the day as mode 1, and then have it automatically switch to the high dynamic range mode at night. So this really is a feature-packed camera. Now, whether or not this is a Mobius killer is gonna come down to price, I think. Now, like I said, this retails for about $190 currently. You can get a Mobius with a basic bundle for less than $100. If you get one of the bigger bundles with a lot more accessories, it's over $100. But with all these features, if I could afford it, or I should say if you can afford it, I would recommend this over the Mobius any day. It's definitely a better camera, and I'm saying that objectively. Everything about it is better. It's just you pay for that. It costs about twice as much, so that's really going to come down to whether or not you want to pay $190 for this. So overall, I'm really impressed. I first heard about Joovuu through their waterproof Mobius case. This is actually their very first camera, and the fact that this is their first dash camera is really impressive to me. I think they really knocked it out of the park, at least for their first camera, and for a matchbox style camera that is so small. There are the few issues like the high dynamic range. If you use that during the day when it transitions from a dark to light area, it had that weird negative image look to it. And actually, when I first got this, the iOS app didn't work at all for me. I got the Note 4, which I showed in this video, but since then, the actual iOS app works just fine. So that's another thing. Joovuu does seem to be really on top of making sure they fix any of the issues. But besides those few issues I had, there aren't any that really would make me not recommend this camera. So if you're looking for a matchbox style camera and you don't mind spending money for quality, I highly recommend this camera. Like I said, this was provided to me for review by Pier28. They are the seller on Amazon actually, so I'll provide a link down below to Amazon or to their store if you want to purchase it through their store directly. So if you enjoyed this video or any of my other videos, I'd appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe. As usual, thanks for watching, drive safe, and I'll see you next time.